Hi, good morning everyone. I decided to make this video because I have a huge network of agent friends, vendor friends, lender friends, closing attorney friends, contractors, independent contractors, and entrepreneurs who I send advice to all the time. And I had a great conversation with my business coach, and I wanted to pass on this information. The quickest way I could figure out how to get my words out there and to everyone is by making it a video. So you guys get to see my face. It is January 3rd, 2020, and I woke up at 3:33 a.m. and decided to get started working today. So it's been raining for about 82 years straight. So please excuse this situation. Anyway, let me just get started. I have about 16 things to help you stay on track when you pretty much work for yourself, or if you have some kind of goal or something that you're trying to accomplish on your own. So the first thing that I wrote down is writing down, asking yourself a series of questions to kind of find solutions to help you plan ahead. So the first thing is, ask yourself, what do I need to change in order to reach my goals in 2020? Keep in mind, this video is for someone who's already set your goals. You're a couple days into the new year and you're realizing that, you might need to change a couple things to stay on track. So write this down in your journal or whatever, ask yourself questions and answer them in writing. The next thing I wrote down is control our time. Do you have an adequate message or system set up to let people know when you'll be returning calls? If you are an entrepreneur or, in sales or some type of business, you work for yourself, you probably have one thing that you need to be focusing on to keep the business moving every day and reach your goals, and that's probably sales or prospecting and finding new business. So you probably have a block of time set up, usually in the morning or whatever, a few hours for your prospecting time. I know that I prospect in the mornings like 8:30 to 11:30 or so. And of course, when you have 6 to 10 contracts going on at a time, or listings or clients or whatever, you're getting 20 messages a minute and emails, and things are going crazy even if you have an assistant. So do you have some type of system set up so that when these messages are coming in, you have a voicemail or a text response or something that tells these people, hey, thanks so much, I'm tied up right now, I'm returning calls today between the time of 12 and 1, and then again from 5 to 6, or whatever. Set up something so that you don't have to react. Implement your do not disturb mode. Google for filters and blocks that you can put on your computer, anything that you can do to block this stuff out. I know that one thing I need to implement is the message that says, I'm not going to be answering these anymore, I can't. The next thing I wrote down is employee. Are you treating yourself like an employee? You're probably an independent contractor if you're watching this, and you probably don't have to go to work if you don't want to make money, I mean. One of the tricks that my coach taught me was that he imagines a camera sitting on his desk and all of his coaching clients and business partners watching him to see if he actually represents himself during the time when he's away from them in the same way that he would when he's around him. Is he being the person that he wants people to believe he is? So one thing that we've been doing is having a group video chat accountability kind of thing in the morning to show up all dressed and ready for work with our headphones on, ready to make calls from 8 or 9 until 12. It really helps us stay on track. And if any of you guys are interested in joining us, we have a bunch of lenders and agents and whoever just making our sales calls. It's a very hard thing. Sometimes it's just rejection after rejection after rejection, and you all know it's a numbers game, so we got to stick together. The next thing I wrote down is bedtime. Are we staying up too late? Do we need to change our bedtime and wake time? I know that I've gotten myself in a situation lately that I'm staying up later than I planned. And that's the first thing to get yourself off track, is not getting enough sleep, number one. Number two, are you starting the night before to start your day? Did that make sense? Are you starting your day the night before? I know that a lot of times I have a list that I make the night before of what I need to do in the morning, clears my head, lets me rest. The next thing I wrote down is temptations. What are our distractions? What kind of things do you know over and over are continuing to get you off track? Are you going out and having drinks with your friends and then missing your prospecting or whatever appointment, or going to the gym or whatever you're trying to do again and again? Do you have that one friend that every time you talk to them, it's so much negativity that you can't even do your job afterwards? Are you putting too much emphasis on other people's needs during the time that you need to be focusing on the one thing that you need to be doing? Or if you're being completely honest with yourself, are you actually just making up excuses to avoid doing something that might cause you pain or rejection, like making sales calls? Do you really need to go to run that errand during that time? Ask yourself, be honest, write it down. It's probably happening. But anyway, know your temptations so that you can know how to overcome them and start to wipe these things out one by one. The next thing I wrote down is schedule. Does our schedule actually support our goals? Does it need to be revised? I know that I've revised my schedule 50 billion times. I keep a Google Calendar. I've kept a paper calendar. I have 50 billion different calendars, and I constantly have to delete the whole thing and start over. And sometimes when you use a Google Calendar and you're doing these recurring events over and over, your brain just stops listening to the notification for it, and it's eliminated. It's completely worthless. So I delete them, I change the colors, I start over. But anyway, does your schedule actually match your goal? Is it realistic? Because if you know how many phone calls you have to make and how many appointments you have to set and how many appointments you have to actually meet, and you know your conversion rate, you know exactly how many people you need to talk to and how many hours it'll take you to get there to make a certain amount of money. So that's one thing that you should keep in mind, as well as tracking. But does your schedule actually reflect those hours, or do you need to change something? Do you need to go ahead this year and plan on losing an hour of sleep per day? Do you need to make sure that if you want to be in shape, there's that hour for exercise a few days a week or whatever? If you want to be a better wife or girlfriend, does your schedule actually reflect quality time with your significant other or your children? If you want to be a quality mom, or whatever. If you want to do more creative projects like put videos on the internet, did you wake up at 3:33 this morning to do that? I did. Okay, so anyway, the next thing I wrote down is realistic. Are your 2020 goals realistic based on what you're willing to do? So I might tell myself, I want to make $1 million this year. I know I can make $1 million. I can do this. But realistically, can I do that based on what I'm willing to do? Even if my schedule reflects my goals, am I realistically going to be able to do this? Or am I continuously going to make excuses about having 3 kids or having to be on the HOA or whatever? Be real with yourself. Just write it down and adjust. And if it's not where you want it to, that's when you can start asking yourself, where can I leverage money for time? Who can I hire to do some of these things for me that will not only help their family have income, but will help me have more time and be able to reach my goals? The next thing I wrote down is rewards. And my son said this last night. He actually told me, Mom, you have all of this stuff on your list. I think you should reward yourself with a few rounds of Fortnite if you finish a few things, and then do it again each time. And I was like, that's a great idea. So rewards, if you hit your goal, what's your reward? If I sell 11 houses, do I get to buy a pair of $1,100 shoes that's completely unnecessary? I might sell more houses if that is the next result from me doing that. Do you want to go on a vacation? What is your reward? Many people might think this is absolutely crazy, but a lot of people who are coached by my business coach actually reward themselves with working out at 3 p.m. If they wake up and they reach their contact goal or phone calls goal or appointment goal or whatever, their reward is actually working out in the afternoon. And when you're a high level producing person and your goals are as high as they are, and time is only the same as it is for everybody else in that day, 24 hours, working out becomes a reward. Things that people dread and make excuses for become a reward. So that's something to keep in mind, and something I should probably think about as well, because around 3 o'clock I lose all of my energy and could use a kick in the butt. So that's something to think of. And then of course the next natural thing on my list is consequences. What are the punishments like for when you don't do what you told yourself you were gonna do? One thing that we discussed is a lot of the people in my coaching group going to work on a Saturday. You know, I know a lot of agents work on the weekends, but most of us are trying to actually implement normal people work hours, like a doctor, a lawyer, and figure out how to work, how to take days off. So this year I started taking Saturday off, unless I have a client who has, you know, some kind of crazy schedule where they are absolutely not able to come in, like somebody who's doing surgery all week or whatever. I'll meet on a Saturday so they're not homeless, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, so a lot of these people are starting to punish themselves with going to the office 8 to 12 on Saturday. And maybe if you have to do that and miss out enough times, you'll start sticking to your goals. So I'm trying to figure out what my consequences are, and I just don't even know. I don't even want to say, somebody tell me what I should punish myself with. Anyway, so the next thing on my list is business planning. In 2019, go back and look. Did we write the goal and plan and never look at it again? Or did we constantly review it and revise it? Is it sitting there where you can see it? I strongly believe that you should take a look at it every Sunday, and you should not go to bed on Sunday without revising your plan and having a plan for the week ahead. So that is something I'm gonna get better about this year, is not only planning my week, but looking back at my whole entire year goal and calculating what's left and what I need to do and focus on to get there. Because without knowing where you are every single day, it's impossible to get to where you wanna be. The next thing I wrote down is pictures. Of course, it's been proven that visualizing helps reach our goal. So I always recommend a vision board, and I've had one on my desk since 2016, and that's how I ended up buying my first Tesla and my dream house and opening my own company and keeping myself under 119 pounds for years and all kinds of things, even though I have 3 kids and I'm running crazy all the time. So having that stuff in front of you actually creates, I'm probably not describing this right, but apparently creates like new neural pathways in your brain to kind of like trick your subconscious mind into believing that these things are real and they've already happened. So your brain will begin to pick up clues of things and how you can get there, even when you've kind of like forgotten that you even had this goal, which is probably how I ended up with this great house. That was exactly what I wrote in a letter to myself years and years ago of what I wanted. Down to tiny details, it was exactly what I wanted. And I had forgotten that I even wrote this down. So it happens to me a lot. So anyway, pictures, vision boards, of course, writing it down. But the next thing I wrote down is accountability. Like I was talking about our Hangouts video chat. Do you need to change? Ask yourself, do you need to change your accountability plan or your accountability partners or group? Sometimes we end up in a situation where our accountability partners become our friends and become a distraction to us. So ask yourself that frequently and reevaluate, are my accountability partners holding me accountable, or are we talking about drama at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. when we're supposed to be on the phone? Because I really hope that my accountability partners can hold me accountable this year and tell me to get back to work when I start playing with rocks on my desk instead of making my phone calls. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. The next thing I wrote down is a receptionist. If you do work in an office where you have a receptionist, ask the receptionist to hold you accountable to your 9 to 12 goal. And I'm gonna kind of change this a little bit. I wrote down the notes that my coach and I talked about, but if you don't have a receptionist, what about your kids? What about your assistant? What about other people in your office? What about the freaking janitor, cleaning lady, whoever is around you? Even your clients. I mean, I tell my clients on the first meeting, here's a copy of my schedule, and if I'm answering my phone during 9 to 12, you should just go ahead and tell me you're not doing a good job, because I know that you're supposed to be making your sales calls from 9 to 12. Get back to work, you know? So receptionist or whoever's around you, are you utilizing your resources around you? If you really think about it and start writing ideas, you're gonna think of someone. Okay, so the next thing I wrote down is hard start. Are you starting your day scheduling the very hardest thing first thing in the morning? Is it you're gonna wake up at 4 a.m. and work out the hardest workout you ever worked out in your whole entire life before, because then you know that anything else that comes to you throughout the day, you can handle it because you've already conquered some crazy thing like getting up at 3:33 a.m. on January 3rd and jumping out of the bed and doing all your work so you could actually have the time to make a video for your friends to grow their businesses. Hard start. I'm trying to make my hard start harder. I feel like it's already kind of hard to wake up and get 3 kids to all different schools and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's like a whole entire work day before I even start my work day. But there are a lot of changes I'd like to make personally to keep myself on track. And I really am like even afraid to be saying this because I'm afraid that everyone's gonna start actually holding me accountable, which is great. You guys can be the receptionist. The next thing I wrote down is journal, like we've been talking about, but basically a success journal. Go out and get yourself a blank one and every day write down your wins for the day, because when things get hard and you have all kinds of deals fall apart, or you feel like it's winter and you have a dry spell, no deals, no business coming in, you could go back and read this journal when you get down on yourself and feel like a failure and see how far you've come. It's really an incredible thing to go back and look at your vision boards or whatever and see how far you've come and remember who you are and that you're badass. So yeah, the next thing I wrote down is scheduling your vacations ahead. And this might sound like crazy. Why are you talking about scheduling your vacations? This is about reaching your goals. But I'll tell you, I never made any money in my whole entire life in the month of July in my businesses. And in 2019, I told myself, no matter what, I'm gonna make money in July. And I joined this coaching company and they wanted me to go to their seminar in Vegas for an entire week in July. And I'm like, I do not leave my kids on the day I have my kids. They go to their dad's house a few days a week. So the last thing I wanna do is miss time with them, number one. And you know, we all think that we're like a surgeon or something and our clients are gonna die without us if we don't handle stuff. And so I make up all kinds of excuses and rationalizations to keep myself from doing anything uncomfortable, obviously. And I had to do it. I made a huge investment to pay someone to coach me every month and I had to show up. So I scheduled this vacation in July way ahead, and I worked my butt off thinking I'm going on like a vacation and I'm not gonna work at all during that time, so I need to make up for it working extra hours and doing all this stuff. And before you know it, I think I had like 10 or 12 deals closing in July. I went out of town. I came home to a ridiculous amount of money of checks in my mailbox and made the best month income I've ever made in my entire life, more than I've even made like my first and second year combined in 1 month. So I am really noticing the value of scheduling these things way ahead. I don't like to schedule way ahead. I get anxiety. I literally had a 3-tab spreadsheet about packing and traveling to Vegas. Like, I'm nuts analytical. So it was really hard for me. But this year, I'd like to go ahead and book vacations, buy my flights, buy my hotel, look forward to it, see it on my calendar, and work my butt off coming up to those days so that I can, you know, have some motivation and something to look forward to. So yeah, the next thing I wrote down is be coachable. Like, be really honest with yourself. Are you being that girl or that guy when somebody gives you some advice that really has worked for people before and you know it, and you're making excuses like, hey, here are some scripts that will help you sell your product or service. And you're like, oh, these are so unnatural. I don't need those. We just do things differently. Those don't really work in our market. Like, let's be honest. People are making millions from the same scripts, yet you think that you're different. be coachable. Google what coachable means. At one point, I told one of my agents to Google it, and then I had to start doing that myself when I realized I wasn't being coachable. I had to Google what does coachable actually even mean? And yeah, I'm not being coachable. Like, don't argue with people who are trying to help you. Do what they tell you, take their advice, and run and put it into action and stop making excuses. All right, so the next thing I wrote down is, write down what necessary changes that you can do to become more coachable, and make a wish list of the places you'd like to go and why, the things I'd like to do and why, and the things I'd like to have and why. Make sure you have that somewhere you can see it and review it. And the next thing I wrote down is time. There are 4 types of people that you should be spending time with, and that's it. So you need to go through and ask yourself if, when you're with people or planning to be with people, if they line up with this, and if they don't, eliminate it. Just don't do it. So the first type is people that you enjoy. The second type is people that you can learn from. The third type is people that you can teach. And the fourth is people that you can profit with. Think about that. The next thing I wrote down is simplify. How do we simplify everything that we do with routines, processes, etc.? I am getting really good at this. I have realized we write the same emails over and over. You can actually schedule, not schedule emails, but you can actually create templates on Gmail and save them in Gmail. Like, I thought that was something that you could only do in your CRM. You can do it in regular Gmail. Google it. You can schedule emails. So if there's something important coming up, I know I'm going to have to do, I will schedule emails in Gmail to send at that time. I'll schedule reminders to my emails to myself for later. I mean, in this day and age, there's literally no excuse if you're in some kind of relationship or a family member or whatever where people are mad at you for forgetting things. Like, just block a couple hours, go through your email and schedule emails that you need to be sending on people's birthdays or whatever. Like, if you just can't handle it, there's no excuse at this day and age, like, really. Okay, the next thing I wrote down is, another thing for simplify is, I've been writing lists of all of the problems or irritating freaking things in my business and my life and how I can make it better. Problems are possibilities. It makes me excited at this point. If you get irritated, let's say, for example, you have a new listing and all these people are calling you, or you're wasting a bunch of time on the same thing over and over. I've implemented like an offer instruction sheet for when agents want to make an offer, so they don't have to have the same conversations with me over and over that I have with all of these agents answering the same questions. Just really trying to find the missing holes in your business to solve it. The next thing I wrote down is, I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff that other people were going to be working on, because I feel like you can learn from everyone around you. Literally everyone. So anyway, if you're like me and you're totally sick of hearing people talk about their 2020 vision for the new year, then you need to go and get, that 2020 vision pun thing got old like October 2019 for me. Anyway, go get the new Bose sunglasses. They have a Bluetooth microphone and headphones, and they're awesome. And I'm just gonna wear these while my car drives itself. Anyway, if anybody needs any advice or accountability or whatever I can do to help you, let me know. I have all kinds of friends calling me like, how do I lose weight after I had my baby? Or how do I work when I have a million kids? Or how do I open my own business? Or how do I stay on track? Or how do I increase my sales? Or how do I take it to the next level or fix my credit or anything? And I'm so happy to help in any way, because I was literally broke 180 pounds 3 times with 3 kids, heartbroken and single and broke, like real broke, and then not broke and then broke again and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, if there's anything I can do to help you with any of that, I feel like I owe it to the entire world after all the people who helped me out of the kindness of their heart. And all I ask is that if you're gonna ask me for advice, that you actually take the time to implement it if I make a plan for you. Happy New Year. Good luck.